This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Speak Up Effective Communication, the show on the Aftermarket Radio Network focused on elevating our communication skills, or maybe in this episode, we should say raising the heights of our communication skills. I am your host, Craig O'Neill, and today with me is a very special guest and friend, my Certified Flight Instructor, Austin Brumfield, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun, Austin. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So there's been a lot of things about aviation in the news, and this has been a topic I've wanted to have a conversation around. Aviation mishaps occur in the world. There's often communication issues, and there's often sometimes a rather impressive investigation that follows these events that I think that we can all learn from. The communication is really strategic and sometimes around these things too. Flight investigations are fascinating to me, but hey folks, this is a communication podcast, but I also love to introduce you to people outside of our typical industry here. And we're going to extrapolate all kinds of lessons from here. I think you're going to really enjoy this. As always, we have a word of the day, and this one, I don't think you're going to have a hard time identifying, but it is aviophobia. We'll define that for you here after a brief word from our sponsors. With the Institute's coaching, leave a legacy that endures, foster careers, and drive community impact. Start your journey today at wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment. Your partner in technology, AutoFlow is able to enhance your client interactions before, during, and after the visit from a single thread. To see how AutoFlow makes it simple, visit AutoFlow.com. Are you tired of juggling multiple tools to manage your auto repair shop? Say goodbye to the chaos and hello to streamlined efficiency with AutoLeap, the #1 all-in-one auto repair shop management software. With AutoLeap, you can sell more, save precious time, and delight your customers with every interaction. Your trusted companion, ShopDog Marketing, is right by your side, attracting the best customers and building long-term growth. Call ShopDog Marketing today or visit shopdogmarketing.com. Cover your communication need and revolutionize your auto repair business with AI-driven call analytics from Inbound. Explore more at callinbound.com. All right, we're back, and with me is my flight instructor and friend, Austin Brumfield. Boy, Austin, this is going to be fun. Aviophobia is our word of the day. That is defined as the intense fear of flying. Not something you experience, is it?
Not something that I experience as of now, but as all people who are learning how to fly find out is you have some level of fear of flying just because it's a different environment. It's a very loud environment and it takes a long time for your body to adjust to that. And at the same time, we weren't built the same way that birds were. So wrapping our minds around what all is going on in an airplane is it's sometimes even it gets me the best of times.
Yeah. I'd say that line between fear and respect is in there for sure. If you didn't have some respect for the risk that is involved in aviation, well, then that's recklessness probably.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But also at the same time, I would be lying if I said that every once in a while when I get hit with a random piece of turbulence and my body's not telling me, what is going on? That happens. It's just part of it. And it's, I have a mindset because I've been doing it for so long that's built around, it's fine. It's just turbulence. But there's an immediate bodily response to that as well.
Yeah. In my industry, it's travel season right now. A lot of us are flying around major airlines, of course, backseat flying. It's interesting to me that the people who are new to even commercial flights, and there always are some around you on the plane, and the little bumps that you get on a commercial plane, oh, it's really bumpy today. They're thinking it's what? I grew up general aviation family, Cessna 182. For me, turbulence was always a very different definition. When you're in a small plane, you feel it a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. The difference is night and day. And that just comes down to a momentum issue. If you have a bigger object, it's harder to move. So that's what happens there. And the bigger airplanes are just designed to handle it a lot better. So yeah,
it's cushy. Yeah, it's really not a bad ride at all. But even on bad flights, and there are some people who have been on some commercial flights where it's bad turbulence, and there's some extreme danger that's involved in that. I remember me and Betsy, my wife, we went, and when we were in college, on a mission trip to Jamaica. There was a school for people that were deaf. we were going there to help out, and flying to Jamaica over the waters there, the worst turbulence I've ever felt on a commercial flight. It was legit bumpy. But she was sick. Like, she felt awful. I was like, okay with it still. We were used to it.
I've only experienced air sickness on an airplane once, and it was funny. So I was already an instrument pilot, and I'm sitting next to this guy who was real nice and everything, but I had something bad to eat before I left. And so I'm sitting there, throwing up, and I'm like having to explain to this guy, I'm like, actually, no, like, I'm a pilot, like, I can take it. Like, it's just.
Yeah. Yeah. The worst I ever felt was when we were doing a lesson with you, doing stall practice, and I didn't have enough to eat.
Yeah, that gets a lot of students. And so that's one thing for sure. On top of the fact that you hear the word stall and you already think something anxiety inducing. You think, oh man, that's how every airplane crashes, when it's a very routine maneuver.
Yeah. Just feels very unnatural, like you're saying. And it's an important thing to practice for that reason. But man, when we talk about the communication in this industry, like, I'll tell you this, Austin, one of the things as a student pilot that I think I would still need to practice a lot more of is talking to tower, listening to air traffic control, and understanding the routine and the discipline that's involved in there. For me, it is hard to understand what the heck is being said. And when I start seeing aviation accidents happening, near misses that occur all the time, more commonly than I think than some of us even realize, they don't all make the news. There's some communication pitfalls that are confronting us.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess I would want to start by saying that really communication pitfalls happen even as a student pilot. So I had a flight instructor who taught me how to be a CFI, and she gave me a very, very good quote. And that was, students will do whatever you tell them to do. And so there have been times where I've told a student to do something and they actually do that thing, but they do it in a completely different way than I had expected. And so she always said, like, you'll have your moment when you tell a student to do something and they're just going to do the complete opposite of what you think they should be doing with that.
Kind of like that. I've seen this video before of like this engineer who's having this kids tell him how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich. And they tell him something, he does the literal thing of it, gets it all wrong, like takes the jar of jelly and smears it on the bread.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. A very common one that I had problems with is saying the word stop. You have to be very specific, right? Because if somebody makes a mistake on, say, a takeoff, and they move the yoke in the wrong direction, and I respond with stop, what does stop mean? Stop means brakes. Right? And so all of a sudden, instead of fixing the problem that they caused because they added too much correction, right? And then they apply all the brakes, and now it's like, okay, whoa, we just hear brakes squealing and everything, and tires are getting rubbed, and it's like, oh, it's because they misunderstood what I said and they did exactly what I told them to.
Oh, dude. So, wow, the angles we can go at on communication. I face this right seat in a car teaching my teenage drivers. Sometimes the only word that I can think of in a moment I'm trying to correct them is the word stop. And it's obviously not what my brain is actually meaning to say. It's what came out. That must be a big part of learning to become a flight instructor, is to articulate exactly the right thing. Wow.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I tell my students if they have any desire to become a flight instructor is start to articulate things early. So a big part of your CFI check ride is explaining to the examiner, hey, this is how you do this maneuver in a very slow, meticulous manner. So that way you make it really, CFI at its core is being able to take a very complex subject such as aviation and teach it to a third grader. That's the way I look at it, is you should be able to make it into a children's storybook so that way somebody can understand it. Because what happens is it's not that your students are any less smart or anything. It's that you had the anxiety of the high noise. You have the airplane that's unfamiliar to you. You have the turbulence. You have the hot weather oftentimes, or the cold weather. And sometimes it's very common to be dehydrated in an airplane, especially if you're training in the summertime, because the air has less humidity in it. And also you're closer to the sun rays. I mean, you go way down in hydration, so that you're basically working with less of a brain than you would be on the ground. Not to mention also the altitude, that could very well add to it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables on there. Man, yeah. I have to say, like being a student of yours, the way you communicated things in such a calm manner all the time, that is a reassurance. That by itself is a gift. That's hard for anybody, mentoring anybody on anything sometimes. It's really a skill.
Yeah, I like to think that if I had Alexa as a student, like the Amazon, that I would be able to tell it how to get on the ground. That's the way I would look at it. Is you have to give very basic, concise instructions, especially when you're closer to the ground, because that's when the student's usually making the smaller mistakes when they're coming in. So, but also you have to be hands off enough to where the student is still learning, because there's another part of it, which is just muscle memory and communicating with your brain to your muscles what has to be done to get the airplane in the right attitude. So if you're coming in for a landing, you have to tell your hands, okay, you have to move the yoke in this direction, but also you have to tell your feet, oh, you have to straighten the airplane up. So you see the sight picture, you have to interpret the sight picture, but you also have to tell your hands and your feet what to do in response.
I see these videos of like crosswind landings and other things where there's so many things happening. The pilot that looks very busy. Those mental processes do come in, but only through repetition and training. Verbalizing it initially to help people understand stuff, that's one thing. Feeling, again, is the other thing. And there was a recent case, alarming to me, because I go through this airport every time I travel. I fly Southwest Airlines, and we go through Midway. And you saw the news story, but there's that Southwest flight. He's on landing. I think his wheels, if I remember right in this video, actually did touch ground, or were very close. If he didn't, I'd have to go back and look at it. There's a business jet crossing the runway in front of him, and he's throttle on. He starts taking off and does his go-around procedure. That, I understand, especially learning from you, the go-around can be a very dangerous procedure.
Yeah. That's actually a very high point of accidents, is really whenever you're closer to the ground is whenever it's the most dangerous. So most of them are coming in base to final or on a go-around or takeoff situation. So him instituting that whenever he did was absolutely the right move. Even then, when his wheels touched down, let me tell you this, he was probably already spooled up to take back off, just because it takes a while for those jet engines to kick in.
Which is so contrary to what you're normally doing at Midway. One of the shortest runways of major airports in this country is a little over 6,000 feet. It's the runways are on the diagonal of this 1 square mile airport, right? And a lot of people who don't fly there regularly are always alarmed by the fact that as soon as you're down, you're braking. Things are sliding forward more on those flights than these bigger airports all the time. And so the time dilation between that decision for the go around or how it was communicated, I think will be interesting to learn more about, because those pilots are getting ready to brake heavily. But in this case, had to make that snap decision to do throttle on the opposite. That's just impressive as heck to me. I thought it was amazing that the pilot saved the day.
That's one of the reasons why leaving the go-arounds to the discretion of the pilot is super important, because if it, for whatever reason, it's not safe, they need to be able to have the opportunity to go around. I will say there's some things that he had in his benefit for the actual go-around procedure. The fact that he had just barely touched down and hadn't already started to slow down and everything, like that tells you that, okay, he had enough airspeed to keep flying. He just needed a little bit more to take back off. You'll notice when it touches down, it's almost immediately back off the ground.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, the familiarity with the airplane and the situation and everything, all the things happening the way it did in that one, that was really one of the more significant near misses that I think I've seen in a while. There's been others, but whew.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the issues that we've had with these near misses has to come with the technology that we're currently using, integrating it with the older technology. Also, some of the technology that we have just needs to be upgraded. So we should be at a point with ADS-B, which is a surveillance system, where you can basically, anybody can get a basic iPad and they can see any traffic that's around them. Anybody who has a cell phone can download an app and they can also see what's going on with their traffic. You can look up live flights and everything. It's very safe. It's also, something that I think that basically all pilots should have access to. I understand that not all airplanes should have that, but that's mostly because we still have antiques that fly that just can't have an electrical system that can't broadcast it. But basically any airplane that has an electrical system, there's really not an excuse for not having it. And even then, most of those antique airplanes, they rarely fly on a regular basis. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, and you're talking biplanes and open cockpit planes and those sort of things. Some of these antiques. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Those are very fair weather flyers, and most of the time they're not going into your major airports as well, because that's also a hassle that they would have to deal with. And so, but basically, I think the technology is there to make aviation safer. I think that part of our issue has come more to, we've just got a bunch of issues coming to a head, so to speak. I think we have a lot of people who have been in the industry for a while, both air traffic controllers and pilots, who are retiring. And so you just have a newer generation learning aviation, which is just going to be part of the process. I think that on top of that, you have air traffic control is in desperate need of upgrades. And I know that that's been in the talks for a while, but we just need to figure out what those upgrades are, get them up to date. And then also, just like, so you have newer air traffic controllers and newer pilots talking to each other, they have to work on those communication skills as well.
Yeah. Well, and we saw, unfortunately, the tragic example of that in the Washington airport, where the Black Hawk helicopter collides with the regional jet from American Airlines. Just so many things had to go perfectly wrong, it felt like, in that scenario for it to actually end up the way it did. And it seems almost like bad luck, but aviation doesn't look at it this way. They will dissect every piece that they can of, it's never one thing. There's one thing I've learned about aviation accidents. It's never one thing. There's a sequence of things that go wrong. I think with that case too, is like, it was a check ride experience for the helicopter pilot. And that's already a high pressure scenario. You're nervous, probably. You don't want to fail. All these things that go through a mind in a check ride. I haven't had the check ride experience yet, but already, like, knowing that day is even ahead is still nerve wracking. Like, gosh, hope I pass. That's a dominant feeling. And then there's the right seat instructor, all the things. Like, I think like the altimeters might have been different is one of the things that came out of that case. There was a little piece on that, but then it's like they were communicating about the regional jet. They confirmed knowledge, but they also had these goggles on, it sounds like. And so their ability to scan what's in front of them, what they think they saw, which they thought was being communicated, wasn't actually what was being communicated. It was actually over there, and they would have had to turn their whole head in order to see it. And I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, is if I don't have an airplane in sight, I'm not really scared to tell air traffic control that I don't have them in sight.
Oh man, that's beautiful though, because like someone on a check ride too, the fear is already there of other things, like that maybe is a factor, right? Maybe they didn't feel comfortable saying, I don't have it in sight. And like, wow.
Yeah, and making sure that the information that's conveyed is accurate as well. That's one thing that's really important. So I had a issue one time. An air traffic controller gave me a clearance, and I complied with the clearance, but I had another issue come up where another pilot, essentially there was two pilots that were heading for a collision. It was a regional jet and a corporate jet. Corporate jet was taking off under visual rules, basically was in a position to where he was going to be on the final approach path for the CRJ, that both me and the CRJ were using the same runway. The corporate jet was heading this way, if that makes sense. And so he basically turned off course, got out of his way and everything. But I was like distracted by this whole incident. I had forgotten about my clearance. And so when I called up, they were like, hey, you were supposed to be here and here. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm so sorry. That was my bad. I wrote a report about that and everything and complied with everything. So, but it's one thing to just, air traffic control is there to help you, and that's their job. And I've worked with some of the most professional air traffic controllers, and I truly believe that. I just think that also we have holes in the system to where they're getting overwhelmed. They're not getting the right breaks that they need. And it's a very stressful job to be put in those situations. On top of the fact that you have increased air traffic exponentially since it was first started.
Interesting.
And so I would be curious to see what the numbers are, but I know for a fact that Michigan, the air traffic has increased since I've been here.
Imagine taking on each day with a team that cares about doing more. They're motivated, skilled, humble, and hungry. They're invested in your shop's success because that success helps them do more than just sell jobs and fix cars. At the Institute, We believe a thriving business is built on its people. Our comprehensive coaching and peer groups help you become a leader who is capable of inspiring your employees to reach new heights, capable to deliver exceptional customer service, and capable to grow your business into a respected pillar of your community. Start your legacy at wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment. It's time for today's Suck Less Spotlight from AutoFlow. Today's spotlight is on advisor eye twitches. Listen, clients like to stay informed throughout the repair process, and studies indicate clients are most satisfied receiving text updates versus phone calls. But call you they will, interrupting everything from estimating to quality conversations and your game of solitaire. That is, unless you text them first using AutoFlow. With AutoFlow's automated text updates, your phone only rings for the right reasons. That way, with less phone interruptions, your eye twitch will definitely suck less. For this and more things that could suck less, visit AutoFlow.com. Say goodbye to the chaos and hello to streamlined efficiency with AutoLeap, the #1 all-in-one auto repair shop management software. No more headaches, no more wasted hours, just smooth operations and happy customers. But hey, don't take our word for it. Experience the magic for yourself. So what are you waiting for? Head over to AutoLeap.com and book a demo today. Let AutoLeap revolutionize the way you do business. Do it all with AutoLeap. AutoLeap, where efficiency meets excellence. AutoLeap is by your side every step of the way. Looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Trust ShopDog Marketing to be your reliable companion with AI-powered customer-first marketing, websites, and high-ranking local search. Maximize your reach with our mobile-first and voice search expertise. Car counts are like ice cream. Sweeten your revenue with ShopDog Marketing. Grab our free guide to learn how AI can drive more repair orders every day. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit shopdogmarketing.com. Every professional auto repair shop needs a trusted communication partner. At Inbound, our established VoIP platform is backed by years of industry experience, guarantees reliable connections, and is combined with cutting-edge AI-powered analytics. We deliver actionable insights that support your business growth. With Inbound, you get more than just calls. You get a smarter, more efficient operation. Get Inbound on your team today and see how we can transform your business. Visit callinbound.com.
Yeah, it seems like general aviation has a cycle, and we're at currently a very popular cycle where it's peaking again a little bit, which is hard to understand. But it is expensive unless you find a nice, cheap old plane. But they aren't usually nice, cheap, and old. Yeah, there's some fun ones. So yeah, your daily flights now, what aircraft are you flying in?
So I fly a Cessna Caravan, and that's with CSA Air. They are based out of Iron Mountain, Michigan. They do express air cargo for FedEx.
Nice. And so, yeah, these cargo flights, that kind of, you seem like you go out in just about all kinds of weather, except for probably the stuff like that gets pretty severe where they just don't let planes go.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've actually really appreciated about my company. That is, if the weather's bad, like communicate that with the company, but they're okay with you waiting a bit.
That's good. What a good thing. Yeah, because added pressures are not something that aviation usually accepts. They're in fact trained out of you to put pressure on it. I know some friends that'll fly to conferences occasionally within our industry, and I'm usually the guy always reminding them, like, don't fall victim to the I gotta get their itis and cut corners.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Also, just like going back to the statistics, like the 121 world is even safer than Part 135, which is what I fly with.
So explain that. A lot of our audience might not be familiar with those terms, Part 121.
Yeah, so 121 is your basic airline. That's basically any airline that exists. They have 135, which is charter flights. Basically, that's what I operate under, is all charter. And so if you were to hire an airplane to fly for you, and which you can do, you could pay somebody to fly an airplane, and basically you would be able to pick what airport you go in and what airport you go out of. It's a very common option for some people.
The pilot needs a commercial license for this, of course.
Yep. Airline like 121 stuff, it's kind of the next level. They hold everybody to a higher standard. Everybody has to do extra testing. Everybody has to do annual SIN training. And you don't really have to do that under Part 135. You still have to take check rides, but it's pretty limited. Now, with that being said, my company goes the extra mile and makes sure that we have a check ride. And we also go to an actual simulator where we practice engine failures and stuff. Some Part 135s do that, other ones do not. It kind of depends on what carrier you're working for.
So I know one of the things you and your wife, Evangela, are working towards is the mission field. Arctic Barnabas will be the mission group that you're going with. And what part would that fall under?
So that's a very good question. We actually are all under Part 91. So the way we're able to do that legally is we don't do charter flights. It's basically a glorified flying club. So as long as I'm operating under common purpose.
Glorified's a good pun, by the way, for a mission group. Yeah.
No kidding. I wasn't even trying to do that, but
it was beautiful for that reason. I just had to call it out.
Basically, we operate under common purpose, which is I'm not charging them for anything. I'm using the airplane for personal transportation. That's how it works.
Nice. So that's going to be very different flying. Michigan versus Alaska.
Yeah, still cold.
Yeah, still cold. See, we've been preparing you so people don't realize this. Austin's from Florida.
That's what Evangelist says is that we've been getting prepared for this.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I love that part of the journey. And I feel like I was a very special part of it because the day that you let me solo was probably the coldest day I can remember in a January we've ever had. And there you were out there standing there at the Greenville airport.
Yeah. And to Craig's credit, I almost wish I had some photos of it so we could share it. But it was some of the, maybe you could post that at the end of the podcast or insert it into it. But it was one of the windier days that I have soloed a student, and he just did phenomenal. And don't let Craig tell you that he's not a good pilot because he earned his stripes for sure. Michigan is not an easy place to learn to fly, especially in the wintertime. Like the winds up here are no joke.
Oh, dude, it was so crazy. These little planes too. I remember feeling this going down the runway first time, full throttle, scariest thing ever for one. But the cold air density that day, the airplane performance is there. You're not in the airplane anymore. You're not a big guy by any means. But my gosh, it was so obviously lighter. Like this plane's ready to jump off the ground so much sooner than some of the other days that we had been flying. It was really something. What a rush. Oh, man. Yeah, coldest day ever, though. So guy coming from Florida, standing out there on a cold runway in Michigan, man, we're just preparing. We were just getting you and Evangela ready.
With me growing up in the Midwest, I grew up in Indiana and everything. I had gotten used to the cold as a kid, obviously, and then I moved down south and I had completely lost every cold bit of tolerance. And so I moved back up north and it was like the reverse. I mean, I was feeling cold when it was like 40 degrees out and I was like, oh my gosh, like this used to not.
But now 40 is a nice day, isn't it?
Yeah. It's reversed now to where I have the cold tolerance back up. So I think it takes about 4 years is what I would say. So
it's hard to say, isn't it? Yeah, because I came back home from a trip to Florida recently and it was cold again here. And I was like, oh, man. Oh, brother. But no, yeah, what you have to say, though, like every time there's an incident or anything else coming up, you're always the first person I'm usually looking through and I'll toss you a text or something. Did you see this? Did you see this? And man, there was that other case too we just saw with, I can't believe everyone lived, like that United flight that had flipped over. I haven't even seen all the final.
Yeah, that was the Delta flight. That was in Denver.
Delta, yes.
Yes. And so that one will be interesting just to bring it back to communication also. And that's really the thing that I've been wondering is what was going on between the pilot and co-pilot. So did you have a situation where one of them froze on the controls and maybe just the other one was saying go around, or did one of them think, oh, they have it, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, they don't have it? Because I've had that happen before too, where especially whenever I'm a flight instructor with a student, I'm trying to gauge if they have it or not, because if they have it, I want them to come in and do a successful landing, because that's going to be the best and most beneficial for them is getting the feel for a successful landing. But also there have been times where I've been like, they've got it. And then it's like, they don't got it. And it's like, you make them go around, in that situation. If I was to say, just whenever it comes to like getting your licenses and stuff, like I think that we have the safest, and most experienced flight instructors in the world. I really do. I think that the way our program's set up, I think it's really good. I think it could be better, but also from what I've experienced, I've just experienced a high level of professionalism really all the way around in aviation. Sometimes there are instructors that don't click as well as others because that's always interpersonal, and you have to build a relationship with them because they have to be able to trust you and vice versa. So me and you, we have a relationship of trust that we have built because we spent, 30 plus hours in an airplane.
A lot of time shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. And you trusted me with your life to tell you what to do and how to fly the airplane. Like there was a level of trust that we had to build and a level of camaraderie. So to say like that's not important, like that's very important that you have a good click with whoever is teaching you how to fly.
And that isn't always the case when you have a pilot and their first officer in a commercial flight either. Sometimes those crews aren't super familiar with each other, as I understand it. It's not like you're always flying with the same team. Am I off on that?
No, you're absolutely correct. It's very often, like actually to bring up, I don't believe Captain Sullenberger and his first officer, I think that was their first flight together, was the one where they went down in the Hudson. So
yeah, immortalized. Yeah. As
long as you maintain a level of professionalism and you communicate the required information, I think that it's possible to do that safely. I think the thing that would come in differently for a flight instruction perspective is you're teaching somebody English for the first time. Whereas when you have a first officer, they're fluent in English,
It's required, as I understand it, all over the world. English is a kind of almost like I couldn't say it's a required language. It is the language of air traffic control, it seems.
Yeah, no, it is. I was just saying, like, in perspective of when you have a student, comparatively, like it would be having somebody who speaks Spanish. They don't know how to speak airplane, right? A first officer and a captain, like they know how to speak airplane. Like you don't get to the airline level, especially with a major air carrier, unless you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of terminology that comes into aviation. As a student, you become immersed in it very, very, very quickly. But the different instruments for one, all the things, like everything, you're learning a whole new language.
Yeah, it's like you have English and then it's like you have aviation English. It's like a completely different, and it's really that way in pretty much any career. I mean,
automotive, we've got a whole different slang.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I could talk to you and you would know what a flywheel is. So
our acronyms and everything. Yep.
Yeah, but somebody who that's not theirs. If I were to talk to somebody who is in IT and I said, "Oh, hey, there's a flywheel," like they wouldn't know exactly what that is, or a piston, because that's not their business background. And it's not that they're less intelligent, they just haven't learned those things.
It's that immersion. No, so here's the thing though, and I always go back to this, like the aviation stuff, all the terminology, all the things, you're learning this whole language. Aviation to me always seems like a high-tech industry. And the airplanes, commercial planes and military planes today definitely seem to indicate that. But like we were saying earlier, the technology that's being used inside the control towers, air traffic control, inside some of the older planes, these are 1960s, 70s, 80s aircraft with radios. And the frequencies on these radios are so unbelievably jarbled in some cases. I honestly, Austin, I still don't know. Even on the commercial flights, you listen in on some of these things. Like, do they just have better headsets that clean it up? And I've found that not necessarily to be the case. It's hard to understand. Why are we still accepting that in that industry today? If we can reduce noise and make something clear, why aren't we doing it?
I think that it comes down to the transition period. And me and you have talked about digital radio as a way to do that. And I'm not against that by any means, but you're trying to bring up everybody to standard all at once. And so part of the problem is we have a lot of dated technology. And the other part of the issue is for them to be able to do that, they basically have to release a unit that would be like a new GPS that you can install. So a lot of these older airplanes you can install new equipment in, but they would need to release one that would be able to do both. So initially, because you'd have to transition from a phase where you were using one and then switching to the other. So if it was one of those things where we had a 10-year plan where it was like, okay, by this date, everything has to be digital radio, which would be fine with me. I would be fine with that. You would have to transition every airplane to that. And they would basically have to have a transition to where they either by this date, they exactly get it swapped, or what we could do is we could have a unit that does both just regular radio.
Yeah, I had a DVD and a VCR all in one at one point. right?
Yeah, basically, that would be the solution.
That would probably be it. But yeah, I guess the fact that it would take so long to do is why they take so long to do it or start it.
Yeah, you've got to think you have thousands of airplanes that are on the registry, and a radio upgrade is, sometimes as long as 6 months. So that's kind of where the issues would come in. That's one of the reasons, though, why ADS-B has been pretty easy to install, because it's not a new system that you're replacing with the old system. It's just a new system.
Well, it solves one of the scariest things that I think is like if you're keyed on and you're speaking and someone else is keyed on and speaking, you're not hearing. You can't.
Yes, nobody's hearing.
Yeah, if you have the button down, you can't hear anything that's being said.
And that is one thing with aviation, too, where it comes down to is less is more. So one thing that you probably remember from Sparta is everybody was very happy to key up on the mic when they were doing a taxi call. That's fine and dandy.
Oh, hey, so-and-so, how are you today?
Yeah, that was another one, too. They would also just coming through and talking with their buddies on a frequency that's pretty busy. I don't really agree with taxi calls whenever your priority is those who are in the air. If you run into somebody on the ground, like somebody else was not paying attention on the ground. It's very rare for you to have a incident like that on the ground where both people were paying attention. But the ground strikes do happen, and I'm not going to say that, but would you rather have a ground strike or an issue with it's slipping me, but in-flight collision, basically?
Yeah, the ground incursions, probably, unless you're full speed from takeoff to landing. Yeah, exactly. So you described a story to me, a recent case where you hadn't heard there was an aircraft nearby, a close call on your end.
Yeah, so I was coming into Flint and doing my normal run, and everything was going fine. And I was at 3,000 feet coming in, and I had heard a airplane previously that was on the frequency, but I hadn't heard anything from them in about 15 minutes. I was with air traffic control. They were watching me, supposed to give me traffic notifications as well. And I decided to start my descent because I was coming into land. And all of a sudden, I see an airplane and a tire. And just like I can remember distinctly the tire because I could see the treads on the tire. That's how close we were. And I had already just started my descent, and I was about 500 feet down. But had I not started my descent sooner, we would have been very, very close. We were already really, really close. It would have been midair close had I not started my descent sooner. And so I keyed up air traffic control. I'm like, hey, are you talking to this guy? And they're like, who are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm not sure, but I had seen an airplane that I was very close to. And so we had a conversation about it. They said we had the required distance. I just made sure that I filed a report and was like, hey, like having this issue, that's one of those things where it would have been nice to have a traffic notification. But I also remember from that day specifically that AirTC was a little bit overwhelmed, so maybe he couldn't give it to me. But I would much rather take whatever delay that I would have to take to be safe.
Yeah, man. I just feel like there's a technology solution to this that aviation just has not embraced.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And these things take time. We probably need to hire some companies to look into it. I know Europe has had some breakthroughs that are quite impressive as well. Their air traffic control towers are all done digitally now. So they have TV screens set up like an air traffic control tower. Whenever a airplane comes into their purview, it will throw a digital circle around the airplane and it will track that. Because part of the problem too with air traffic controllers is they're using binoculars, they're using phones, and they're using paper. That's the way that they do their air traffic control technology. We could definitely use some things to cut down on the amount of workload that they're dealing with that.
Yeah, it's that workload is huge. Honestly, that's one of the things with even general aviation, that with all the communication, the energy that needs to go into communication is like, I don't know if I'd have as much fun on regular flying by myself, because having another person there skilled, especially like a CFI, is such a great experience, especially when your CFI is really cool.
Yeah. And I've had some of my best trips with my students. I mean, I love taking students up to Mackinac Island. That's one of my favorite trips to do here in Michigan.
Yeah, that's my bucket list, man.
I went to Beaver Island as well. That's also very gorgeous. Although
Did you hit Fox Island?
I did not. No.
Okay. All right. That's on my list too.
North Fox Island is on my list. I know some people who do airplane camping over there. So
yeah, that's my dream, man. That's my dream. Yep.
I think they even have a camping site that's designated and like a barbecue pit or something like that there. But it would be a very nice experience. I hear the bugs are kind of bad depending.
Yeah, certain seasons the black flies are. Betsy and I are going to South Manitou in June. We're going to be camping out there. We got to take a boat to the island like idiots instead of an airplane, which would be way cooler. But it should be a great time.
Yeah, I love Michigan. Me and Evangela are full-on Michiganders now. I actually did not think we were going to swing that way when I first moved here because I just thought it was another Midwest state.
So point on the map where you live right now. It's in the middle of the palm, isn't it? Yep. Because you're not a real Michigander until you do this.
No, I mean, technically it's right over here, right next to the thumb.
Oh, you're doing it backwards, but that works. The left hand on the back of the hand is acceptable.
Well, I mean, it would be like this hand here is how I point, if that makes sense. You do it this way, that would make sense. Okay, yeah.
There you go. I understand. I do. I'm just going to get a tattoo of where I live. It's become a joke in my company now, Michiganders. Like, oh, where do you live? Here it comes. The map.
It's a beautiful state. I mean, we lived in Florida before this. I lived in Indiana, but I just kind of thought that it was just like Indiana 2.0, kind of like Ohio is. But man, you get into like northern Michigan. Oh my gosh, it's one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Yeah, not a bad place to fly. VFR too. Navigation's so easy if you can see the coast. Got a good sense of where you are.
Flying VFR in the fall in Michigan is some of the best, and that's one of my favorite things.
Nice. Oh man, so good stuff here. My gosh, there's so much things. I don't know if we've helped anybody with their aviophobia today, but I would hope that you've extrapolated some of the lessons that Austin shared with us on what it's like to be a CFI, what it's like in the professional side of the aviation industry. I think there's always things from other industries that we can apply in our own, especially even as mentors. Like all of these guys, everyone out there who has staff members in your shop, you're flying right seat. They're in the left seat sometimes in that process of understanding where they need oversight and not sometimes can be trepidatious, but there's something to learn here. I got to say, though, like one of my favorite things, and we'll talk about this with you and your awesome, lovely wife, Evangela, in a future episode. I can't wait to hear more about the mission that you're preparing for to be on. A lot of the people that have heard me talk know that I wanted to be a mission pilot when I was first a freshman in college. And the way God works is often in mysterious ways, but I found the right flight instructor. And part of my experience was so enjoyable on that is knowing that you're a mission pilot and that's the journey you're on. It's like, that's really cool that was part of it. Thanks for being a part of my story, man.
Yeah, I think that was pretty awesome that we got lined up like that. There's been a lot of things like that I've seen just get lined up. So
yeah, nope. And how long are you in Michigan before you got to go out?
So the tentative plan is for us to go up this next summer. We're looking at buying a house possibly in Alaska here soon as well. So we're just kind of hoping everything works out like that. And yeah, one thing I did want to mention, my wife has a Facebook page that we have for our journey that we're doing for missionary stuff.
Excellent. What is that? We'll put it in our show notes.
And it's Brumfields to Alaska. And if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to reach out to us. I personally do flight instruction, but I also know a lot of flight instructors around Michigan. So if there's anybody who wants to reach out about that as well, you can reach out to Craig and I'm sure he'll put you in touch with me.
You bet. Yeah, we have a email for the show as well. So if you want to reach out to us or if there's any questions you want me to pass along to Austin as well, reach out. Speak up at craigoneil.net, O'Neill with 2 L's. And we would love to hear from you, especially regarding any topics that you might find interesting or that you would like to discuss. And of course, I always remind our listeners, there are some other great shows here on the Aftermarket Radio Network. We have Remarkable Results Radio with Carm Capriato. We have Diagnosing the Aftermarket A through Z with Matt Fonslow, Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest, the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast with Brian and Kim Walker, awesome industry couple, and the Weekly Blitz with Coach Chris Cotton. Those are some great shows. So Austin, I will say this, I will eagerly anticipate having you and Evangela back on the show so we can talk more about the Arctic Barnabas mission, how cool it is. And I will tell you this, I know some great shops in Alaska. So when you land there and you need a place to maintain your vehicle, you let me know. We will get you plugged in with the right people.
All right. Sounds good. I'll talk to you later. You have a great day.
No, thanks so much. And once again, thank you to our sponsors for making the show possible. Thank you, our listeners, for joining us. Now get out there, listen up, speak up, and look up with confidence. Thanks.
You've been listening to Speak Up, Effective Communication with Craig O'Neill on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Craig on your favorite podcast listening app and on his YouTube channel. Let him know what you'd like him to speak up about. Craig is all for advancing the automotive service aftermarket.